US Bank offering 15% down on owner. Ooh, good to know. Happy New Year to you too. What is a portfolio lender? Can you expand on that? Basically, a conventional lender is someone that is backed by Fannie and Freddie, so it's government backed and therefore has to follow the guidelines that the government sets if they're going to insure that loan. But there's lenders who want to kind of be outside that box, and so they're not insured by the government. So they have to be extremely careful about what they lend on because they don't get that government insurance. So there's more and more lenders popping up who they don't need that government backing. They've got investors who are looking for any kind of yield because, like I said, in Europe they're getting a negative return buying debt. So if you were to invest in a fund that has at least some kind of return, there's a lot of money in lending right now, just a lot of money lending on U.S. property. So basically, a portfolio lender is not backed by the U.S. government and can be a little bit more creative. Those lenders were not around 5 years ago, but there's more and more every day. How do you compare syndications making 16% to owning rental property that may not yield same return in 5 years? If you're in a syndication making 16%, good for you. That's great. I would love to know about them. It's hard to hit that number in cash flow. If you're talking about rental, if you're talking about a syndication in apartments, it's really a flip. Let's see. So a lot of apartment syndicators are saying it's a 16% return. What you have to understand is that's not cash flow. That's the belief that if they buy the apartment, improve it, raise rents, cut costs, they'll increase the value and they'll be able to resell it and then give you that return. There's no guarantee that will happen. So when you're hearing that you're going to get 16%, there's no guarantee. Now, in some of our syndications, we have delivered 20, 30, 40% returns on our subdivisions, but on other ones, they haven't, because you don't know exactly what the future holds. So with syndications, it just depends on the syndication. And if you're making 16%, that's wonderful. If you haven't made it yet, you don't know for sure if you're going to get it because every year there's something different. If there's a recession in 2 to 3 years, it could affect that syndication. So you've really got to compare it to, like I said, if you're buying one little single family rental in an area with strong job growth and population growth, that's a pretty safe bet. If it's a good house, if it's a new house or a renovated house in an area where there's a lot of rental demand due to jobs versus kind of a flip scenario where you think you'll be able to hit the mark, but you don't know for sure. It's a little more speculative. What about Austin? Love Austin, but it's a little bit hard to get good cash flow there because prices are higher. It's the second time I said there are tons of lenders for foreign nationals. I'm afraid I have to disagree. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, okay. So it sounds like somebody tried and didn't get it. I'm sorry to hear that. I know that they say they lend, but when it really comes down to it, I don't know if the portfolio lenders are actually financing for foreign nationals. So do talk to the investment counselor if you're looking for one. Okay, what do you think about paying extra on principal the first few years of a mortgage as opposed to saving extra income for future purchases? It just depends on your game plan. If you want to have those homes paid off and just increase your cash flow because you're retiring, it could be a good plan. But if you're cash flowing already, it might be better it just depends on where you are. If you're trying to increase your portfolio, not ready to retire, then you might want to use the money to keep building the portfolio. If you're ready to retire and want cash flow, then you might want to start paying down the principal to pay off the mortgage so that you have increased your cash flow by the time you retire. That's one of the plans of buying 10 homes, taking all the cash flow to pay off one property. You can sometimes pay that property off in a couple of years, and that can be a good plan if you are looking to retire. Aw, someone said, I'm looking forward to your January 12th meeting in LA and just wanted you to know how much I've benefited from the free education I've received from RWN. Thank you so much. My gosh, we're going on 2 hours. I can't believe it. Thanks for staying with me this long. I've been babbling. RWN SFR Rental Fund. Can you talk about the business model behind it? I think you asked this before, but it's already closed. So I don't know if you're already in it, but if you are, then you would get the quarterly updates. Basically, we just pooled money and bought a bunch of rental homes, and the investors got a preferred return, and yeah, pretty straightforward. I came across a duplex currently rented. One tenant has been there for 4 years, and the other two rents for 450. They're asking for 21,000 in Youngsville, Ohio. It sounds like a really basically it's a duplex that rents $400 on each side. I would just talk to several property managers, check out the crime in that area. That sounds like a really low rent and it might be a difficult part of town. What do you think of roof stock? How do I answer that? I think it's not that different than buying a property. This is my understanding anyway, than just buying a property off the MLS. Looking for a strategy to generate cash flow and I could be wrong there if I am. I know the owners, they're great people. It's not the same kind of thing that we do. I believe that sellers can just kind of upload their properties there and yeah. Okay, looking for a strategy to generate cash flow and begin building a rental portfolio at the same time. What strategy would you recommend? I guess buying rental homes. Sorry if I didn't answer that. Could you sell a house that's on the FHA program for a conventional loan instead? I am not sure. Thoughts on college property rentals? That can be a very good investment. You need to understand it. I don't know that I'd want to rent my property to a bunch of college kids, but if you've got a good property manager in your near the school, I mean, in that school's, like San Diego State, for example, they have more kids applying for that school than they have rooms. So it just depends on the college, but it can definitely be a good plan. I've switched to paying off our rentals so we can use the cash flow to pay our kids' upcoming college expenses. Oh, that's so cool. They're 10 and 13. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's Mark, who was with us 10 years ago, and he had a brand new baby, and now that baby's 10. That's amazing. Do you have any plan to create a new fund for single family homes? We're thinking about it. It wasn't very profitable for Real Wealth Network. It's a lot of work, but we are talking about it because I know a lot of people want it. Because basically we're taking on all the management of the properties. Sorry, my question might have been unclear. Let's say rent on my rental increased from $900 to $1,000 in 3 years. That extra $100 is going to significantly boost my cash on cash return from 10 to 15%. So considering this, is it right to say cash on cash is an investment increase over time? Or is it typically considered on year one? It's typically considered on year one. Reason why I ask is because I see people comparing historic returns from S&P 500 to a rental using year one pro forma, but I think one thing they never factor in is how rents will increase, thus increase cash on cash return. That's a really great point that a lot of people aren't realizing, that rents tend to go up over time and that would increase your return. My goal is to cash flow my way to live free in Carmel, California, invest out of state to live free in California. Heck yeah, that's a great plan. A lot of people don't realize that it's easier to qualify for property, for little rental properties than maybe one property in California. So a lot of people think, oh, I got to get into real estate. I want to buy a house. The average home price is $1 million. I'm going to need, $200,000 or $300,000 to put down, and I don't know if I can afford it. And then you have to qualify for this $5,000 payment, right? That's hard to do. But what they don't realize is if they bought the same value of property, so instead of $1 million house, how about 10 $100,000 properties? It's still $1 million portfolio. The difference is you're qualifying for a $500 payment because if you just buy one house, for $100,000, you're able to qualify for that $500 payment. And then you also get to include the rental income for the properties. So it's much easier to build $1 million portfolio of rentals than just one house that you would be living in. And you get all the tax benefits of that. So there's a lot of benefit to just renting in a high-priced market and building a portfolio elsewhere. Okay. Somebody's going on their 6th rental. Congratulations. How can I qualify for a loan if I'm only living off my rental income, no job? You need to talk to a lender, but that can be difficult. That's why it's best to build your portfolio while you still have a W-2 income. Don't retire until you've built up your portfolio, because it's hard to get loans once you don't have a job. So that's tough, but talk to a lender. Maybe they will allow some of the income from your investment income to qualify. Somebody said, should we combine 5+ properties in a commercial loan into one loan? You can certainly do that. Just talk to some of the portfolio lenders. Okay, we are going on to 2 hours. I can't believe it. Oh my goodness, thanks for staying with me this long. I will have a more in-depth report for our 2020 market predictions at our upcoming event. It's a free event. Rich will also be speaking. He'll be doing his focused investor seminar. And if you haven't heard yet, Rich and I are doing a retreat in Costa Rica at our Costa Rica property there on January 24th, 25th, and 26th. I know that's coming up. It's only 3 weeks away, but if you can join us, it's going to be really cool. And again, you can get details for that on the website at realwealthnetwork.com. Just come up here and click on events. You'll see the January live event and the Atlanta tour, Dallas tour, and the Costa Rica tour. You can get more information there. All right, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and happy 2020. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.